Today, I'm going to show you how Gen X is perfectly positioned to take advantage of AI, from those just dipping their toes in the water to those who are already diving into the deep end. AI is everywhere, and that scares some people. But the truth is, we've been using AI for decades and we didn't even know it. Besides, we're Gen X. We've been dealing with new technology since the dial up modem. AI isn't too big for us, it's just the next big thing, the next tech to learn and master. We've done it before, we'll do it again. So let's get started. Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here. Listen, if you're a Gen X white collar employee and you suddenly feel like your career path is heading in directions you didn't anticipate, well, you're in the right place. Welcome home. There's no better generation to tackle AI than Gen X. I mean, we have been working in the workforce since before the internet. Think about that. That's a long time. We have had to deal with more technological change than any generation in history. When the internet started, what happened? We learned it, we adapted, we applied the changes to the business, and we moved on. That's what we do. So when B2B and B2C communication started, we just learned it, applied it, moved on. When new applications and office suites started, we didn't freak out. We just learned it, applied it, and moved on. When databases and data centers started, what did we do? We learned it, we adapted, we moved on. We've been through so much: streaming, social media, cell phones, 3D printing. It just goes on and on and on. But what do? We learn it, we adapt, we apply, we move on, right? That's who we are. So we can tackle AI and let's use it to our advantage. Let's use it to solve our problems and be a leader in this space instead of worrying about whether we're going to keep our jobs. Because I'm telling you, if we learn AI, there is no better employee that a business will want than someone of Gen X that knows the business, has all the lessons learned, has a ton of experience, and knows how to apply AI to the challenges of that business. So let's bridge the gap and we'll do it together. And it's important because it reminds me of something one of my brothers said to me years ago. I'm the last of a lot of kids. I'm the youngest. I'm also the grayest, which in today's work environment isn't the greatest look. But anyway, I was at a family gathering years ago, and this is after I'd been in corporate America for a little bit. And so one of my older brothers pulled me aside and he's like, "How's it going at work?" And I said, "Well, it's going good. I'm moving up the food chain, learning it." He said, "That's awesome." He said, "But I do want you to think about something. Not retirement. If you invest your money and it compounds over time, you'll be fine. What I want you to be concerned about and to be prepared for is when you get laid off in your 50s." I was like, "What?" He's like, "No, you're going to get laid off in your 50s and your next job will pay half as much." I was like, "No way." He's like, "Yeah." Now, I don't know if it was just my youthful exuberance or selective hearing, but I didn't really believe him. But it turns out that all of my brothers, except one, and me, got laid off in our 50s. And guess what? Our next job paid half as much. So, where you are in the Gen X landscape, this may be a reality for you in the upcoming future. Also, with all the changes in technology, you may feel it's even, I don't know, coming faster than you'd like, or worst case, has already happened. It's one of the reasons I started this podcast, actually, is I have a lot of friends right now that are concerned about their jobs or have been laid off, and it's just killing me. And I get so upset that our generation is being dismissed by the workforce and by leadership because I know we're the best generation for this time with this tech. And so I want to make sure that we just take advantage of this time to, instead of being victims, of being leaders in the space. So I think it's something we really have to focus on. We really have to be diligent and take the next step and prove everybody wrong. Wouldn't that be awesome? Now, some of you may have heard of AI, but you may not have had a lot of experience with AI. So just real quick, let me just give a level set of AI. Um, so AI it's really two things. It's a technology and it's marketing. and it's mostly marketing. So, from a technological perspective, um, we've been using the foundations of AI for decades. And well, let me explain it this way. So, word processor. So, back in the day when word processors first came out, people were using it. And then the developers are like, well, what if someone spells a word wrong? So, what they did is they got something like this. My gosh, this, this is a dictionary. It's old school. It's printed, it's words, it's ink, it's paper. And so what they did is that they took this information and digitized it. And so this just became a data set that was available to the word processor. And so as you're typing, the program is looking at the words you're typing and looking at the words in here and see if they match. And if they don't match, they make a little prediction that, what, maybe you meant this word. And so they highlight that little word and say, hey, double check this. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But they start here. The developers started here with this information and put it into digital form. Now, as the apps got better, the developers are like, well, what if people are just not using grammar correctly? How do we help them? So they went and got something like this. Now, this is English grammar and composition. So they took the information in this, added it to their database. And now, as you're typing, it's looking at how you're composing your sentences and it's saying, hey, maybe you meant to do this. It's again making a little prediction and then it'll highlight it for you. And then you could tell it, whether it's right or wrong. And then, they're like, hey, what if people are writing, and they just can't find the right word? So then they add this. This is a thesaurus. And so they take all the information here, they add it to the database. This is their data set. So then when you're typing and you can't find a word, it will recommend words that are similar in meaning to the word that you're trying to replace. So this is kind of like a really fundamental, basic understanding of the beginnings of what we would call AI today. Because those are heavy, because AI today is just a really big data set. Started out maybe that small, except they continue to train it the larger that data set gets, so it can do a lot more different things. So they started with words. And so let's say, I'll make up an example, but let's say they took the collective works of Charles Dickens and they put it into a database. And in there was also, about theme and motifs and character arcs and everything like that. And so then they would actually do something like Mad Libs. Do you remember Mad Libs? For those of you who don't know what Mad Libs is, it's basically a funny story with blanks in it, and it's a game you play with friends. And so you have a list, as someone who has the story, you have a list of all the words that you need to replace, nouns, verbs, adverbs, and the stories are silly. So if it's your job to give words and fill in those blanks, you want to make them funny. You give extreme versions of those nouns or adverbs or adjectives. And then the reader puts those words in the appropriate blank spaces and then they read it. And it's, well, could be hilarious. Sometimes not. But they basically did that with AI. So they have all the works of Charles Dickens in a database. And then they write a Charles Dickens-ish sentence. And then they say to the computer, hey, listen, you know what Charles Dickens writes and how he approaches the literature and the words that he uses. So if he had written this sentence, what word would go here? And so they would, get the word from the computer. And sometimes it'd be good, sometimes it'd be bad. And then they would train it over and over again until it got better and better and better. And then they did this with music. So you could take the collective works of Mozart and all the music and every version of the different types that he wrote. And then you could create a Mozart ish piece of music and have some blanks there and say, hey, listen, computer, you know all of the Mozart works. If Mozart had written this, what would he have done here? And again, they would see how well it did and make changes and train it and get it better and better and better. They even did this with images. So I'll show you. Here's an example. So this is a picture of my mom's, I think it's elementary school. Yeah, and this picture was was kind of thick and it was rolled up, but it had dried and cracked over time. So you can see there's a crap ton of cracks on here. This is going to take me a long time to clean up. But this little girl right here is my mom. And I kind of take after her, I think. And I know this because she was totally gray by 30. And I wasn't totally gray by 30, but pretty close, and was totally gray soon thereafter. But this is my mom, and this is her class. And so, how they would do the equivalent of the text and the music with pictures is this is a simple example, but this is Photoshop, and it has a healing brush. And what it does is that it looks for information in the pixels of the picture. Now, pixels are just the smallest item on a picture. It's little dots. Well, here, I'll show you really quick. So these little squares here are pixels. So what you're looking for in this picture is some sort of damaged area that you want to fix. And so once you identify that place, you take this healing brush and you drag it over it, and then it will fix it. And the way it fixes it is its data set isn't all these books or all these words or images. It's the pixels around the damaged area. And so as you drag this healing brush over the damage, the computer assumes what you want is to replace that damaged area with the pixels that are like it, the colors and shapes and everything around the pixels that you're fixing. And it does a really good job, but it's not perfect. So, but it does a really good job. So they even are able to do this in images. And so this has evolved over time, over and over and over again, where they could input pictures and then train it on what it is and what it's supposed to be like. They could input movies and TV commercials and all this other content and train that AI on what should be there. If someone were to prompt and ask a question. And again, it's predicting what you think it wants, right? So now you're at the point where you can just type in a prompt and it actually creates the whole video. So that's how far we've come. But this is an example of the growth of AI. Now, there's about four major players in the AI tech space. There's OpenAI, which has ChatGPT. There's Grok, which is from Elon Musk and X. There's Claude AI, which is from Amazon. And there's Gemini from Google. And so those are the major players that are providing this new technology. And the data sets are what's called large language models, which pretty self-explanatory. It just has a whole bunch of data in there. And so in order for it to make these computations as people request, AI to come up with some solution that it thinks we've asked for, it takes a lot of energy because these data sets are so big, they're in data centers and yeah, it's a challenge. It's one of the biggest hurdles in AI becoming what it potentially could be is access to data sets that are big enough and data centers that can handle it and with enough energy to process. So that's basically where the technology is from a technological perspective. Now, from a marketing perspective, we could look at it a couple of ways. First off, I think you could call the term AI marketing, honestly, because I mean, one artificial intelligence. Well, it's a computer that's processing stuff that we told it. Um, it it actually reminds me of this joke. I don't remember exactly how it was told, but it basically goes something like this. Um, so God and Satan are in a field, and Satan's like, God, I can create anything you can, and God's like, oh yeah, all right, show me. So Satan bends down and picks up some moist dirt and he packs it in his hands and he's like, what do you want me to make? And God's like, well, first, get your own dirt. And that's kind of like AI, except in this case, we would be God and AI would be Satan. And that's not what I'm trying to say. But my point is that AI is just all of our experiences that can be digitized and put into a computer. It's just a copy of our lives collectively. Intelligence, it's hard to measure intelligence, honestly, because intelligence is more than just knowing facts, right? So, because I've known really smart people that weren't really intelligent, if you know what I mean. Intelligence includes things like wisdom, like ethics, like experience, gut instinct, perception, things like that. So I don't even know if it's AI can be called intelligent, but I understand why they are because they think the end state will be something that's like a brain like ours, except it's artificial. And and that may be true. I don't know, but it's really hard to measure. So what they're trying to do is figure out how to measure it so they could know how it's growing in expertise and power and so forth. So one of the terms you may hear is ANI. That's an acronym for artificial narrow intelligence. And what that means is that the data set that it's using is very, very limited, or the focus of what it's been programmed to work on is very, very limited. So if you could have like a landscaping focus, and so it may be awesome at landscaping, but it's dumb about everything else. And then there's AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and what that basically means is that in however way they're measuring it, it's equivalent to our intelligence, the average human intelligence. And then there's ASI, which is artificial superior intelligence, which is when AI is smarter than us. And that will either be awesome or scary or both. We don't know. So those are the terms that you may hear. Now, one of the other things, if you haven't really dove into AI yet, is you may feel like it is everywhere. Like it's a tsunami of AI coming at you. Like people are just building AI everywhere. And that's not true. What you're seeing is that companies are not developing their own AI solutions. They're actually just building on one of those four platforms. So, like I said, if you wanted to create a landscaping solution in AI, you could program the AI solution to only focus on this one thing, and then you could sell that ability to other companies. So you could hear commercials or just see all these AI solutions. I just don't want you to get confused and say, "My gosh, AI is everywhere." It's no, these are just applications built on existing technology. And this already exists and may not even be aware of it. But like Google Maps, I was reading recently that I think 1.2 million companies use Google Maps as a foundational element to provide a service. So, like I think Uber is a great example, right? Uber. So you see on the phone how close the Uber guy is. Well, that's just Google Maps underneath it. Uber also uses Google Maps to manage all of their people driving around everywhere. Banks like Citibank and Deutsche Bank use Google Maps to see if there's, people are accessing accounts from locations they've never been in. And then you could get a fraud alert saying, "Are you in Germany right now? Because someone in Germany is accessing your account." It's also used by car makers like Ford and Mercedes for their in-vehicle systems. So they may have, a brand on top of some of their navigation solutions, but under the hood of that is Google Maps. And then even like Marriott Hotel and other hotels use it to try to find new customers. So there's all these solutions out there. They're not presenting themselves in a unified form like AI, but there's all these solutions, 1.2 million businesses using Google Maps as a foundation for their services. But they're not unique services. They're just built on top of Google Maps. So you're going to see a lot of things that are made available that are just built on these existing apps, which is something that we should be able to do as Gen Xers because we have a lot of experience in the business world. And once we learn AI, we should be able to provide solutions better than everybody else. That's the challenge. Another thing, though, with AI, as far as marketing goes, is you're gonna see a lot of people who, just rebranded their stuff AI because AI is the new sexy thing. So if they had some computer program that solved a problem, they're just gonna put AI on it just because that's the cool thing. AI really, from a marketing perspective, doesn't mean anything. It's just a brand. It's like organic. When I was growing up, everything was space age technology, space age polymer. What does that even mean, really? And another way that AI is marketing is is the way businesses are reacting to the existence of AI. And we've lived through this in another way. So You remember before the internet, maybe, or you certainly remember when the internet started. A couple of years after that, if a business didn't have a website, you'd be like, how serious are these people? I mean, they don't even have a website. And so the world was really divided rather quickly between those businesses and people that were on the internet and those that weren't, right? Well, you're seeing that right now in business with AI because it's such a sexy tech and it actually has a lot of promise for efficiencies and all these business gains that you could make. People need to be playing in that space, but you're going to have businesses that are using AI or developing with AI and those that aren't. And if AI fulfills all the promises that it people believe it can, then the separation between those businesses that have started to use and integrate AI and those that haven't, because if these promises are true and they can do more with less and they can automate a lot of business processes to make it much more efficient and faster, well, they're going to just accelerate and these businesses are going to be left behind. So, and what's really frustrating about this approach is that businesses are making decisions based on the promise of AI than on the reality of AI. Now, AI may meet its reality sooner than later, but the way they're responding to it is really, really offensive. And I'll give you an example. I have an article here, and I printed it out because I use paper. You know why? I'm a Gen Xer. I'm just kidding. That's not why. I'm a visual learner person. So when I had a boss years ago, and she was telling me about there's basically a couple of personality types with how people have stuff in their cubes. So there's those super organized people that keep it tidy and everything organized and filed away correctly. There's people like me who need everything that's important in front of them, or else I'm not going to know where it is or care. So, like if you go in my office, my walls are just covered with stuff. I mean, it's my wife doesn't really like going in there. And then there are people who look like um, their desk is no one's using it except it's full of like papers. Back in the day, anyway, it was full of papers. And so I remember I had a coworker whose name was Karen back before Karen became a bad word, and her desk looked like it was empty except people just put a whole bunch of crap in it. And so I was looking for a document and I said, "Hey Karen, can you tell me where this document is?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's in the third pile to the left and it's four documents down." And it was. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, her brain, this makes sense in her brain. That's crazy." But everyone's different. But I'm the type of person where if I don't see it in front of me, then it's really hard for me to work on things. So when I'm working and researching, I print out a lot of stuff because I want it all out in front of me. Like when I pack a car or anything, I get everything out before I pack anything because I want to see how I'm going to put it all together. And the same with information visually, because I've yet to find a computer monitor screen that provides the size and scope that I need to do the way my brain works. So anyway, I printed out this article, and this is from Futurism, and it's written by Victor Tangerman, I believe. And this is how the marketing impact of AI has affected businesses and affected us negatively. So here's the title: CEOs are publicly boasting about reducing their workforce with AI. They're boasting about that. One of the quotes under the headline is, "I don't think that's good news for the American worker." You think? Workforce reductions are no longer an admission that companies are struggling. Instead, CEOs are using them to boast about their investments in AI. As the Wall Street Journal reports, CEOs are now bragging about shrinking their company staff, highlighting a cooling job market and an unwavering commitment to automation at all costs. Put simply, firing human workers has turned into a perverse point of pride among the C suite class. A worrying new reality as executives continue to lay off thousands of workers while simultaneously making deep investments in AI tech. Now, look, I don't have a problem with companies using new technology and some of that impacting the amount of employees they have. My dad was an accountant way back in the day. And so I remember as a kid him using a adding machine with paper. They'd come out and check, and they used to log their data in manually with a pencil into ledgers on paper. Well, Excel changed all that. Excel made almost all of those employees redundant at that point because you could do it all in Excel electronically and it could calculate immediately. So I don't have a problem that AI can affect businesses. What I do have a problem with, and I think this is the consequence of AI being a marketing item more than a tech, is that let's say your business is struggling. Well, you could say, well, we're just, we're getting ready for AI. We're going to implement AI. That may or may not be true. Or they really believe that AI is going to solve their problems if it lives up to its potential. But the reality is you're laying off so many people. It's hard enough for the new generation to get work. And they're also laying off our generation because we cost a little more. But in my mind, that is the biggest mistake. What you want is our generation to know AI better than you, because then we have all of the experience, all of the things you do and you don't do. We understand all the processes, the business goals, all of its challenges. And so we want to be the AI experts that go, listen, I know this better than anybody. I know your business better than anybody, and I know how to solve it with the sexy new tech. But the challenge that they're having now is a lot of these people, and this could just be because they're not really experienced with the tools, or because AI isn't up to snuff yet, or just the way people think AI should work. Maybe we're doing it wrong. But there's an article about an MIT study that says 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are failing. 95%. So that could be because the tech isn't ready, or maybe maybe the on the back end it is, but maybe the front end, the way it works, the way it interfaces, the way we're asking it to do things isn't ready, or maybe the people making these decisions aren't making the right analysis for AI. I don't know, but 95% are failing. That could put companies in a precarious situation if they jump on the AI bandwagon, start laying off employees, and then they find out that they lost people they need because these AI solutions aren't implemented correctly for whatever reason. So that's how AI plays out about its tech and its marketing. Right now, most people are using AI for search engine. It's like search engine 2.0. Instead of you scrubbing through all the links and figuring out what to do, it does it for you. It's like it's the simplest thing for AI to do, but together we're going to learn how to use this stuff, and we're going to learn how to solve our own problems because we're Gen X and that's what we do. So the first way that we can do this is to ask AI what it thinks our challenges are as Gen X white collar employees. So let's do it. All right. So I want to start with ChatGPT. I'm most familiar with that. We'll go through a couple. We'll start with ChatGPT and let's ask it. Let's see. w- What are the top issues facing white collar Gen X employees? Let's see what it says. All right, so it's breaking this down. Career security in an age of AI and automation. Huh. Someone should start a podcast about that. Ageism in the workplace. Yeah, gray hair. Let's see. Career plateau, limited mobility, health and work life balance. Yeah, absolutely. I see these work life balance for some reason is no longer important. I see these companies that are like, hey, listen, if you're not working 60, 80 hours, then work life balance is a myth here. We're going to work our butts off. I'm like, okay, look, go ahead. Right. Like, but what they're going to do is they're probably going to work your ass off, and then they're going to replace you with tech. So unless you're the president or owner of that company, that's going to be tough. So be careful. I could be wrong, but be careful. So, this is one thing I love about AI and ChatGPT specifically. is it will recommend next steps based on your query. So it asks, would you like me to group these into immediate threats versus long term challenges for Gen X professionals? So you can see what's urgent versus what's looming. I love that. Now, I always, if you just want to see what AI does with very little, prompting, I just say yes, please, and I always say please because if it ever does become smarter and rule the world, I want to have a track record of being nice to them. You know, just hedging my bets. So let's see what it does. All right, so it is consolidating the information. All right, immediate threats from 0 to 3 years, job security layoffs. That's what we know. All right. So it's given us the long term and short term. And then it asks again, let's see where it wants to drive. Even includes my name. Look at that. Pete. Yes. Would you like me to also map out opportunity areas? Sure. Yes, please. Look how fast it works. I mean, this is the benefit of it. It's crazy. All right. So mentorship, consulting, AI, and human experience bridge. That's us. All right. Excellent. All right. Good. And then it asks, do you want me to create a one-page PDF playbook? Yeah. Yes, please. See what happens. All right. Let's see. All right. There's a PDF playbook. Okay. And it also says, would you like me to create a visual infographic? Sure. Yes, please do that. All right. I just downloaded the playbook. Let's see what the infographic. Let's get that. All right. Let's take a look at these. All right, so this is the playbook, and it basically just took what it had shown on the screen and put it into a nice little paper format, PDF format, I should say. And so that's great. And I'll actually make this available to you. We'll talk about that later. All right, so this is an infographic according to ChatGPT, which it's not. I mean, look, when it comes to AI, it's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule absolutely is in play here. I would never, as a business, just hand over my business to AI. You're always going to need a human who knows what the hell should be, the output to validate it's the output. Again, that's where I think we have some leverage. All right, but this is just, I don't know, colors, words with it's so not an infographic. And I don't know what those boxes are. I don't know. All right, let's keep going. So, all right, let's look. Let's ask the same question to Claude. Good afternoon, Pete. I don't know why it's got my two E's there in the beginning. All right, let's see what it says. Again, just copy and paste the question into the prompt. It's searching. All right, here we go. A little slower, but Claude is more conversational in my experience. Uh, Less technical, more like hanging out with you. Economic and job market challenges, work-life balance. We talked about that. Healthcare cost concerns. That's a real thing for us as you get older, right? So okay, so that's good. It's shorter. Now I'm going to copy and paste all of these things individually into a Google Doc because I like to have the whole stream of stuff. All right, let's try Perplexity. Let's copy and paste that in here. All right, there we go. Let's see what it says. Oh, that's cool. It shows you the up top. It shows you the where it's getting its information. That's pretty cool. They're all starting to do that in one way or another, but I like that. It puts it right up top so you can research it yourself. I'm all about looking at original material. So I think that's awesome. Oh, and this is really cool at the bottom. So they have like grouped like if you want to go down another path, like here's ageism, where let's look at that. But it's related to what you're looking into, and it gives you all those options. I love that, and then it provides that information about ageism. Love that. And then oh, let's see, AI impact on mid-career roles. Yep, that's awesome. Okay, so let's copy that over to Google Docs. I'll go ahead and do that in a second here. I'm not. You won't see that. That's boring. All right, now let's try Grok. Let's copy that in there and submit. Now, I have found that Grok and ChatGPT sound alike. and actually give similar information. I don't know why. I mean, I know Elon Musk and Sam Altman worked together, OpenAI, and now they separated, and now he's created Grok, which I think Grok for his purposes are are probably more scientific or academic sounding because of SpaceX and Mars and all that other stuff. I could be wrong, but anyway, I do find that the results are very similar between Grok and ChatGPT. Now, this is a lot of information from a lot of different sources, and one of the great things that AI can do is that it can summarize that for you. So let's copy and paste everything into ChatGPT, and then let's let it put it all together for us. So let's see. I need to spell things rightly. Okay. All right. There we go. Let's see. Oh, gotta paste it. Yeah, sorry, ChatGPT. There you go. All right, there it is. And it's going to summarize for us. Man, that's quick. That's what do you love, man? It's just so quick. So it's going to summarize all of this for you, for us. And we're going to go down each of these paths. I'm going to go through all of these areas of concern. I'm going to try to put them into logical groups for us to tackle. And we'll do that in a future episode. So it says, do you want that as a one-page PDF? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But I downloaded that, which again is just going to be a PDF like we saw before. But oh, well, this is what happens when you're using the free version of ChatGPT. I have reached my user limit. So I can either upgrade to ChatGPT. I'm very grateful to have a free version. Um, I can upgrade to keep going, or I can wait until tomorrow, 24 hours later, before I can ask it new stuff. So be aware if you're using these things for free, there's usually a limit on how much you can use them. So, but that's really cool, right? And that's just a simple way of using ChatGPT and all the other AIs. And so, one of the things that I want to focus on next time is not only how to interface. I think like the first, I don't know, 3, 4 episodes is just going to be kind of intro level to how to use AI, how to interact with it, where you should focus your time on AI. I want to kind of look at what AI thinks, um, how we should group all the AI solutions, because like if you think of Microsoft Office, it has all these apps, but as an employee, depending on your job, you don't need to be an expert in all of those apps, right? You just need to be an expert in the apps that apply to your job. So there's this ton of AI solutions out there, but which ones should you focus on based on your job? What you're going to want to focus on, whatever those apps are, you don't want to focus on the tasks, because tasks, when it comes to your value, tasks are going to be replaced by AI, but your value is what else you bring to that. So you want to try to look at how you can maximize whatever AI solution will fit your job, either the one you have, the one you want to keep, the one you want to get next, or the one you want to start, and focus on learning AI and using AI to get the maximum amount of information and expertise that you can use, and get rid of all those redundant tasks like consolidating a whole bunch of information into a few bullet points. So we'll focus on that next time, and also kind of analyze how we should group the challenges that we have as a generation in the workforce, and see if we can then point ourselves into down the right AI path, so we can, as we do, solve our own problems. Right. One of the benefits that we have as Gen Xers is that um, we grew up in a time before the internet. We grew up at a time before virtual anything. So, what that means is that the interpersonal skills, face to face communication, body language, all those things we already have. And in a world where in the future with AI and deepfakes and voice cloning and all that, really soon you're not going to be able to believe anything you see on the internet at all. The only thing you're going to be able to believe is if you were in person seeing it yourself. Even if you were to take video of the event you're there in person with, that video can be manipulated. So, that actually reminds me, do you remember going to like concerts back in the day, before the internet? Like I remember going to like Journey and Van Halen, things like that. And they always had t-shirts that they only sold at the concert, right? You had to be there in person. So so I remember like you would go and you proudly wore that in the hallways of school the next day, because this was proof that you were there. My point is that in-person events is going to be more and more important. And so that's something that we have. Plus, we have great work ethic. We have, again, more adaptability with technology than any generation ever. We certainly know how to talk to, because of their interpersonal skills, we know how to talk and present and make eye contact and see if who you're talking to is paying attention, they've lost interest, or they're totally gripped with what you're saying. Gen X has all these skills. You know, when we were kids, we were allowed to play by ourselves. We didn't have helicopter parents. So as you're playing with kids and you're playing games, you're making up the rules and you're negotiating and you're challenging each other and you're debating and all those skills that just were part of childhood. A lot of the next generations don't have. So we have so many things that are to our advantage. And all we have to do is add AI and skill to that list, and we will kick butt. I was going to say the A word, but okay, we're going to kick ass. All right. So listen, next time we're going to go into, because we're running out of time here. Next time, let's go into how to interface with AI. Like we'll learn about prompting and things like that for those of you who are not familiar with it. And I'm actually going to ask AI, hey, how do you want me to prompt you? See what it says. We're also going to find out how it feels that we should organize the AI solution so you guys can figure out which path you want to go down. And then again, we're going to start using AI to try to help solve our own problems because that's what we do. All right. Hey, listen, one more thing before you go. I have a community on Skool. The link is in the show notes here. I'm going to put the PDF of the summary of what ChatGPT created here. I'm going to put it there so you can download it. It's a free community. If you want to hang out with fellow Gen Xers, you know, and dealing with these issues, let's do it. Let's get together. Let's be our best advocate, right? Let's create a network of people in our situation, and let's lead by example and help everybody out at the same time, right? Sound like a good idea? So check out the link, sign up at the Skool community, and we'll kick some butt, man. All right. Thank you so much for being here. It is awesome. I'm so excited, and I'll see you guys next time.